Oh, the volatility of the Players' Championship. You never know what you're going to get Sunday down the stretch, like Wyndham Clark in this horseshoe, losing to Scottie Scheffler by one stroke. And now, what's going to happen in 2025? That's what the Golfbet Roundtable is here for at PGA Tour Studios. Chris Brees, Will Gray, and Ben Everill. We're going to talk all about Scottie, whether you bet him or not, Ben.
No chance. It's a sucker bet. Let me tell you, a year ago, I had to apologise to Scottie Scheffler because I doubted him. I may have to apologise again, but let me tell you, the plus 400 at the beginning, it is a sucker bet. Don't go down that path pre-tournament. Look to ride the roller coaster over these next 4 days when things get going. He's going to blow out like he did last year. If we think he can make a comeback, you'll get better odds.
Still crazy to think back to where he was at the end of round 3 and where he ended up a couple of days later. Chris, we found a round table. This is a heck of a setup here. A big week here at the PGA Tour requires a big setup for our team at Golfbet, and we're just really excited to be here. And you got to start with Scottie, right? Because the whole operation this week is what do you do with Scottie? How do you bet Scottie? And where could there potentially be value elsewhere?
Everybody wants to bet Scheffler, and it's crazy to think what DraftKings did back in December. They opened this market for us. Scottie and Rory and Xander were pretty close to each other in odds. Xander was plus 1,000, and now all of a sudden this week, the week of the Players, he's ballooned to plus 2,200. Scottie's still around 400, and Rory's plus 1,000. So everybody is going up massively except for Scottie Scheffler. Ben, you say don't bet him, don't touch him, because what you usually say is live bet Scottie Scheffler. So why not live bet him this year?
Well, no, that's what I am saying to do.
Okay.
I'm saying we need to live bet him if you want to have a look. He got out to, I think, about plus 800 in the first round last year. And this year, he hasn't won. He won at Bay Hill coming in, so he was looking good. He hasn't done that yet. The last 3 winners, which is twice him, had a win on tour as they came in. And I think that also in 3 of 4 Scheffler's events so far this year, he had a bogey before he had a birdie. And he's playing in the afternoon. So with all those things being said, you're going to get more than 400 even before he tees off, and maybe even more if he has a slow start like he did last year.
I mean, it's a little bit of a dichotomy, right, Chris? Because we look at where he was last year, and he's arguably playing a little bit worse, right? He doesn't have the win at Bay Hill. He doesn't quite have the same form, but the numbers on the betting board from the odds makers are lower. He went from 2023, he's plus 1,000, plus 1,100. He wins, drops down to plus 500, plus 550 last year. Now he's, as you said, sub 400, trending towards 3-1 in some places. That's a crazy number when you think about how volatile TPC Sawgrass is, how stacked this field is, and how unpredictable this tournament can be. To have that short of an outright number really says something about where Scheffler is in the eyes of odds makers and in the eyes of bettors.
We just came off his press conference. He himself said, it's not a specific course for any type of player. Anyone can win here because you have to do everything well. You can't just get away with being good off the tee and not being great over here on approach or whatever it is. The only little bit of leeway you can get is on the greens slightly and around the greens slightly. But you still need to be in like the top 30 or top 40 that week to get it done here. So with that being said, anyone can win. That's why we have guys bump out of nowhere. And that's why 400 is a dumb number.
You also got to realize that he was plus 3,500 in the 3rd round, down by 7 shots, and still down by 5 going into Sunday. So you want to talk about volatility. Anybody can win this thing from Thursday to Sunday. That gets us into the tee time debate, because everyone wants to talk about where you sit on your tee sheet Thursday and Friday has a massive momentum shift on what you're going to do come Sunday afternoon, because 14 of the last 17 winners had that early tee time Thursday and a late tee time Friday. That's why we said Scheffler couldn't win last year, because he was late last year. He bucked that trend. Guys, is that a fluke anomaly, or is that Scottie was so good it didn't matter?
I felt much better about this when we were talking about it being 14 out of 16 last year and why we can't bet on Scottie because he's not going to win. But there is something to be said. Clearly, going back to 2007, for folks going out early, you get that first round in on the smooth greens, and then you have a little bit of a wait, and you play back on Friday afternoon. I think, listen, Scottie Scheffler is inevitable, as our colleague Kevin Price likes to say, but I think it goes back to, Ben, what you were saying. It's the tee to green game. Scottie can say all he wants about how anyone can play here, and it's a course for anyone. You need to be a ball-striking Jesse here. You look at the 5 times we played this thing since it moved back to March in 2019. Cam Smith putted the lights out en route to victory a couple years ago, and all 4 other winners were first for the week in strokes gained tee to green. That is a very clear formula, and I think there's some correlation of if you are the best ball striker this week, tip potentially for who we're picking later, you are going to more likely than not get a win.
Well, I think too, you mentioned that Smith victory and the putting. I throw that one out anyway because that was bizarre weather all week. We got rid of half the field because of how bad the weather was on one side of the draw. So if you take that out even more so, to your point, you have to be a ball striker here. You have to be able to just get it tee to green without making a lot of mistakes, which is why Scheffler's won here twice. But I still think it's a ridiculous number.
That's fair.
You know who had an early tee time last year? Xander Schauffele, who had that late lead.
So
and
close.
Should have won the Players' Championship in 2024. What's the stance, Ben, on looking at Schauffele based on what we saw last week?
Look, in December, I was going to be coming all in on Xander Schauffele this week. He had a point to prove after losing last year, like you mentioned. I thought he was going to really take to it and probably win this thing. But injury, just coming back last week, was not great last week. Did sort of grind to make that cut late, which was nice. I have to stay off him. Unless I was getting 40, 50, and then I might have a crack. But I think he obviously needs more weeks before he's going to get back to his best.
I'll flip it and go devil's advocate. If I had offered you in December, hey, you can get Xander Schauffele at 25-1 to win a TPC Sawgrass, you wouldn't ask a lot of questions about what's going on. Yes, the rib injury took him out longer than he expected. I think there was certainly a stop and start with his rehab of thinking he might play Genesis, and then is he going to play Bay Hill? Even that he wasn't sure, and he did have to grind to make that cut. Hasn't missed a cut since the 22 Masters, longest streak on tour. So there's something there to look for in trying to get to the weekend. But you're right, it's a small sample size. We talked about this last week, right, Chris, of what are you going to see out of him at Bay Hill that might change your odds or change your perception coming into this week, whereas a place that now he's had 2 different runner-up finishes, you didn't see a lot that you liked. So the odds sliding are understandable. I'll be fascinated to see where his pre-tournament ownership for DFS and outright handle end up to see if he's still a big name, still one of the top players in the world, still a 2-time major champion. But it's tough to take him on a board that also has Scottie and Rory who have so much more momentum.
The beauty about him is definitely he's a live betting option, right? Like we can watch and see what happens. Like I don't see him going out and shooting 62 in the first round, so you're still going to have options to jump in on him during the tournament. If you feel like he's found some form, if you feel like he's playing well, then you can make a judgment and you're still going to get some juice, unlike what you would with Scheffler if he goes out with a 64.
Will anybody be surprised if we see Xander Schauffele just go gangbusters this week? Because he started off awful at API and got better. Was it the short little rust that suddenly, oh, I'm Xander Schauffele, I'm a major champion, I can do this? Do you see that really being something where this week all of a sudden he turns it on, or is it going to be like a progression? If he's going to play well this week, it gets better and better and better.
Well, to make it personal again, I told him that I'm off him. And he said, remember last time you did that? I won the PGA. I'm like, yeah, I know. So he knows I'm off, so he's probably going to fire.
It's hard to follow that. I will say, I think TPC Sawgrass in general is a better course comp for him, a better fit than Bay Hill. And last week, it was just a hard course that was playing difficult. In the wind, lots of thick rough, water everywhere. It's not like we're lacking water here, but I do think that it fits his eye a little bit better than Bay Hill. So go gangbusters, that would surprise me. Be on the leaderboard with a chance to win coming into Saturday and Sunday, I don't think that's going to be a big shock.
Yeah.
Let's get into picks and predictions. Let's start with winners. Boys, you have late tee times for both your winners. Colin Morikawa, what is going through your mind here, Will?
I'm absolutely ready to get hurt again. I am there. There was a lot of turmoil last week at Bay Hill, but my man Colin Morikawa still came out as the best ball striker in the field. The putter let him down. Some situational stuff didn't help. Russell Henley chipping in from God knows where. But listen, Colin Morikawa leads the PGA Tour in strokes gained tee to green. He has come close on 2 different occasions to winning this year, including last week at Bay Hill. He has all the momentum that Scottie Scheffler does not have. He's still looking for his first win in about a year and a half. The major pedigree is there. He's got a win before in Florida at a WGC event, which is another correlated trend that we've usually seen, is that if you play well here, you've usually had past success in the state of Florida. Plus 1,400, Chris. Colin Morikawa, I'm telling you, we're going back to the well.
At what point do you think he's damaged? A guy who
currently.
was in 2 final groups in majors last year.
Yes.
Didn't win. We saw what happened so far this year. At what point are you damaged? Do you think it's now?
What's damaged is that number. 1,400 is too low.
Yeah, you're right.
2,000? I'm starting to feel
Right.
you.
Okay.
2,000, I'm feeling you, because I also am worried.
I'll wave to you as we're sitting at plus
balloons to
600 after
5,000
2 rounds.
Like, here's what I'm saying, though. Afternoon tea time? Is that what you're telling me, Chris?
Afternoon tea time.
So, no, here's what's going to happen. Morikawa's going to feel like he's got the pressure on him. He's going to need to press whatever that early score is, which, by the way, is going to come from my winner. He's going to go out early and play well. And that is going to put him in under pressure, and that's what I'm worried about for Morikawa. If he feels like he needs to go after it, he's not quite as good as Scheffler in just blanking everything out. He's going to feel that pressure early. If there's a low number put on the board early, that worries me at 1,400. 2,000, 2,400, maybe he makes an early bogey, jump on it then. Outside of that, I'm a little worried.
He mentions the early tee time for both of our winner, same guy, Hideki Matsuyama. I just look at the fact that everyone loves that 63 that he shot during COVID year that didn't count, right? Mm-hmm. This guy has 7 rounds of 67 or better at the Players' Championship. At some point, he's going to win here, right?
Top 6 the last 2 times he's played here. Has won already this year. As I mentioned earlier, if you win, leading in, the last 3 winners have done that. He's a guy that's done that. I think that he's got the ball striking prowess that we've talked about. He's basically a small Scottie. He's won the Masters like Scottie has won the Masters. He's able to do it. He's also, like, since the win, he's just been fairly consistent. Not necessarily knocking on the door, but doing enough to make me feel like he is trending in the right direction and ready to win something big. If not here, he could be back in the mix at Augusta as well.
I'm waiting for him to win here. Are you waiting for him to win here, or do you just feel like it's not a no-cost thing?
No, I'm finding the middle ground. I'm not waiting for him to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does win. I think to your guys' point, when we talk about line value, Hideki Matsuyama had all the smoke after that win at the Century when he obliterated a very good field, and everyone went to Sony thinking he's going to go back-to-back, and he's cooled off since then, right? He hasn't been playing poorly, but he also hasn't been catching the headlines like some of the other players have. Rory's got a win. Colin Morikawa came up short twice. Scheffler's doing Scheffler things. So I do think that he's a little bit forgotten among that A tier of guys that can absolutely go out and win this thing by 3 or 4 shots. So there could be some value there. I agree. Listen, he's got the track record. This is a course that theoretically would fit him. There are some comps between players that have won the Masters and have won here, including, of course, Scottie Scheffler. So wouldn't surprise me, but listen, I get another horse in the race.
I've talked about the guys who've won already this year then. If not him, who's the most likely? Obviously, Scheffler hasn't won. Rory's won. Ludwig Åberg's won. Sepp Straka has won. Everyone's talking up Sepp Straka this week. Like,
shout out Rob Bolton.
There are a few. There are a few names out there that would keep that trend going.
I will say Ludwig is on my short list in terms of guys that have the total package. It's interesting to see how he played at Bay Hill. There were spurts of some really good golf. He's running like 5 birdies out of 7 holes, and then he falls off a little bit. But he has the local knowledge, right? He's here a lot as PGA Tour employees. We see him down at the smoothie bar more often than maybe he'd like to admit. But listen, great smoothies. So he did say at Bay Hill, TPC Sawgrass, top 5 course in the world. He's a huge fan of this place. And so I wonder, he's early still in his career, but this is a place that he certainly has marked that he is interested in winning, as of course all the players are.
Sounds like a superstar week. If you want to stay away from picking winners, it's always tricky. We've got prop bets galore. And when you're going to talk props at Sawgrass, you got to talk the Island Green 17th. We have an over-under from ESPN Bet at 52.5. Now, Will, I'm going to throw the stats at you later.
Good.
You need to give me your pick over/under balls in the water 52.5.
Over. Root for the carnage. It is such a fun bet to sit there and watch these guys have to battle the winds that are starting to pick up around here, around the stadium course. It's going to get tricky over the weekend. You know that pin's going to go front right on Sunday. I just think that we're going to have a couple of those days, especially Thursday and Friday, where we might see 15, 16, 17 balls in the water. You're going to race out to mid-50s with some ease. So I like the over. Every little splash, just a tally mark and a little bit closer to cash.
He's burned because, the one time he played here, he had 7 balls in the water or something like that. So
Listen, you want to run back the tape on my personal history on the 17th hole. It is better than you would expect.
You want to...
And better than mine, I can give you the tip.
The reason why I mentioned those stats, they all point to the under, guys. Last year was 36 balls in the water. The average is 48. I believe the high was 93 one year, and the low was 28, wind. I believe.
Yeah, it's all wind.
When you get wind, then his bet is a killer. So I'm prepared to go on Will's side of it just for the fun of it, like he mentioned. This is a fun bet. It's not one you put the mortgage on. It's one that you have a bit of fun with. You're out there, you're watching, you kind of want to see that carnage. That's the place to be. That's the place where you get the groans and the cheers. Any hole, any short par 3 where you can get just as easy a 1 and a 5, those are the best to me. I know some people don't like the Island Green, but just that fact alone, if you can make a 1 as easy as a 5, I think it's a great hole.
There's 2 pieces this week to the 17th hole handicap. First is the wind, which has been off and on, and honestly pretty strong around here. It's been gusting up into 20 and 25 miles an hour at times, but also we had rain early in the week. Sunday into Monday, it got pretty wet. So I think the green on 17 specifically is going to be pretty receptive, especially in the first 2 rounds. So you're not going to see those balls bounce when the pin's in the back. It's not going to hit on the tabletop and bound off into the water over. It's going to be more of you need the course and that green to firm up Saturday and Sunday and the wind to kick up to really add that extra variable.
I also see what you guys did. The house is baiting us to take the under. They always win, right? They're baiting you take the under. These guys want the over. That's fine. One prop I find really interesting, I found at DraftKings Sportsbook, Justin Thomas as the best past champion. It's an 8-man field, okay? You got the likes of Kuchar, Fowler, Siwoo Kim, Jason Day, Adam
Rory
Scott.
McIlroy.
He's got to beat Rory
Scottie
McIlroy
Scheffler.
and Scottie Scheffler are the 2 he has to beat.
You
But I
bury
love
the
it
lead.
at
You
pl-
bury the
but you
lead,
guys,
Chris.
it's plus 600.
Okay.
I wouldn't bet it at plus 300.
Okay.
Would you not like that bet at plus 600?
Again, listen, I feel like I've burned my Justin Thomas cards early this year. I picked him last week. It didn't quite come through. So I think he's in a great position to contend. I think he did better than his score indicated last week at Bay Hill. But listen, you're dodging the 2 alphas, right?
Yeah.
You've got Scottie and you've got Rory.
I'm banking on Scottie struggling somewhat.
Okay. He's
gonna have to struggle a lot.
How's that working out
He's going
for
to
you?
have to struggle a lot.
Yeah.
We're talking 2024 or 2025.
Either way, it's not like the guy's missing cuts
know.
right now.
Even when he was his worst results, Scheffler, is T25, he was 2 off the lead Sunday that day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's obviously still playing okay, but again, not as good as he was, and that's why I don't like the number. We got 550 pre-tournament last year for Scheffler. We're getting 400 here. I actually think Jason Day is a little sneaky to maybe even beat Thomas, but I do like Thomas. I do have him on my outright ticket.
Thank
but
you.
only because I'm giving it the 1 more week after I said I wouldn't, because last year I got burned with Xander Schauffele that way. I'm going to be like, look, I said he would have a win by the time we left here. I thought it would have come earlier. Hasn't come. I'm going to just leave him there, hoping he can get it done this week.
Okay, what's the other non-sucker bet? If JT's a sucker bet, if Scotty's maybe a sucker bet to win, what's your prop? What's your top 10?
I like Aaron Rye as a top 10,
we
and let
go.
me explain why. There is some correlation between Sedgefield Country Club, the Wyndham Championship guys who've played well there, have come and played well here. You've got obviously Webb Simpson, Siwoo Kim. I think when Kevin Kisner was in his prime, he had a contending year here as well. There's
Lost
just
one playoff. Lost
yeah,
a
that's
rookie,
right.
yeah.
There's just a little bit of a correlation there for those that have played well here. And Aaron Rye's also trending here and over the last year and a half. So with that being said, you get juice. It's nice. And I think the Englishman can be thereabouts. I don't know if he can win, but I do think he can contend, and I like that top 10.
Well, we hope we gave you the knowledge. Now it's your turn to go out there, place your bets. Good luck to everybody out there this week. And we're not done, by the way. We're going to be doing post-round recaps on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to give the folks the best and most up-to-date information to stay informed.
We're going to know what odds Scheffler is at the end of each round and tell you whether to jump on or not.
It's going to be a good week here. I look forward to joining both you boys for a little more discussion.